Before we crack open tonight's cursed can of content, I just want to say a big thank you to all our subscribers, and an extra Sinister shout out to the loyal members of the Sinister Elite. You legends help keep the darkness alive. If you're enjoying the stories and want to take it a step further, hit that like button, make sure you're subscribed, and consider joining the Sinister Elite by clicking that join button below. Members get access to creepy custom emojis and exclusive Sinister Elite badges that level up the longer you survive with us. It's like loyalty, but spookier. All right, lights off, headphones in, and let's summon something we'll all regret. Look, I've had some weird jobs. Night janitor at a mattress store, backup fry cook at a funeral parlor cafe, even a brief stint as a Walmart greeter during the 24-hour Black Friday era. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for Greystone Hollow. The ad was simple. Night shift attendant needed. Quiet environment. No living residents. I thought, cool. Maybe it's one of those abandoned buildings someone's renovating into an Airbnb. Or maybe it was just a nursing home that leaned a little too hard into the goth aesthetic. What it definitely wasn't was a full-service retirement home for ghosts. The interview was held at midnight sharp. A man named Harold met me out front, wearing a perfectly pressed blazer and holding a clipboard that was somehow older than time itself. The building loomed behind him, Greystone Hollow, once a luxury convalescent home in the 1920s, now a Victorian-style behemoth with cracked windows, ivy-choked bricks, and a glowing Help Wanted sign flickering like it was powered by regrets. Harold didn't smile. He didn't blink either. "You'll do," he said before I even introduced myself. "We need someone who won't ask questions. Can you follow rules?" "Depends," I said. "Do the rules involve human sacrifice or pyramid schemes?" He didn't laugh. Instead, he handed me a laminated sheet with a dozen rules typed in courier font, yellowed like it had sat in some forgotten file cabinet since Roosevelt was in office. The header read, "Rules for night staff. Greystone Hollow to keep the residents from getting restless. Always clock in at 11:59 p.m. No earlier, no later. Greet each resident by their full living name. Do not touch the rocking chairs in the common room. Leave one pudding cup on every tray, even if they don't eat. Keep the grandfather clock in the foyer wound and ticking. Never acknowledge room 13. If someone knocks 3 times from the inside of the locked east wing, do not respond. Lights must remain off in the reflection room. Clean up ectoplasm with the gray mop only. If a resident asks about checkout, smile and redirect. The piano plays itself at 3:33 a.m. Do not interrupt. Don't run. It excites them. Naturally, I assumed this was some elaborate hazing ritual or an ARG some weird theater kids cooked up for TikTok. I signed anyway. Rent was due, and I didn't feel like eating another week of off-brand cereal and sadness. By 1 a.m. that night, I was alone in the lobby. No nurses, no doctors, no patients, at least not the living kind. The place was weirdly cozy. Dusty velvet chairs, oil paintings that definitely blinked when I wasn't looking, and a faint scent of lavender and embalming fluid. I found the staff office, which was basically a small desk next to an old tube TV showing static. There was a security monitor hooked up to grainy black and white cameras aimed at hallways that stretched far too long for the building's exterior dimensions. My first task was serving dinner. I wheeled a cart full of untouched pudding cups and juice boxes to each room. I knocked politely. No one answered, obviously, but I still heard shuffling on the other side. Sometimes a laugh. Once a whisper that said, "Chocolate again?" I set down a tray in front of room 9, resident, Beatrice Mathers. The nameplate below her door still had a faded photo attached. A smiling woman in her 80s wearing a feathered hat, and a glare that said she once ruled a bridge club with an iron fist. As I turned to leave, the door creaked open behind me. "Peach next time," said a voice. I looked back. The room was dark, empty, except for the rocking chair, which was now moving. I returned to the office and started flipping through the logbook. That's when I realized something. All the entries were handwritten, dated, meticulously updated by every previous night shift worker, until 3 months ago, when the updates just stopped. The last note: if you hear your own voice coming from the intercom, do not answer. It isn't you. Naturally, the intercom crackled to life 10 seconds later. Hey, it said in my voice. I dropped the mop. Can you come down to the basement? I slammed the power button. The gray mop, rule number 9, was leaning quietly in the corner of the office, next to a bucket that had been dry a moment ago, but now dripped a steady glowing ooze that smelled faintly of ghost pepper and mothballs. Around 3:33 a.m., the piano started. Soft at first, a delicate tune, like something from an old dance hall. Then sharper, angrier, like the ghost of Duke Ellington was having a full-blown tantrum about being interrupted during bingo. I didn't dare go near the music room. Rule 11 was pretty clear. I just stood by the monitor watching as room 13, which according to the floor plan didn't exist, lit up on the feed with a warm golden glow. Something passed by the camera. Tall, shadowy, wearing a nurse's cap and no face. I whispered to myself, what the hell did I just sign up for? The monitor flickered. My reflection looked back. Only, it blinked first. The thing about ghost retirement homes is, no one warns you what ghosts are like when they're old. TV and horror movies always show spirits as some tragic child in a Victorian dress or a screaming banshee in a hallway mirror. But these ones? These ghosts are cranky, nosy, judgmental, and half of them refuse to accept they're dead. One kept throwing bingo cards at the wall because someone rigged the numbers. Another kept asking where her cat was, and when I said I didn't know, she told me I was useless and floated through the wall. This job is 40% terror, 60% getting verbally abused by the afterlife's grumpiest senior citizens. After the piano incident and the not me voice on the intercom, I decided to go back and reread the rule sheet. Maybe I missed something. Maybe there was a hidden clause about how to handle rogue doppelgangers or poltergeist jazz rages. Nope, still just the 12 horrifying commandments. Except now, there was a 13th rule. 13. If you start seeing room 13, it means it sees you too. Avoid eye contact, never speak its name, and above all, never, ever knock. I didn't remember that one being there before. I took a shaky breath and turned back to the monitor. Room 13's camera feed was static, but every so often, just for a flicker of a frame, I'd see something tall and narrow standing by the door. Almost human-shaped. Almost. I decided to distract myself by doing something useful, like mopping up the ectoplasm that had started pooling outside the memory wing. I grabbed the gray mop, not the yellow one. That one hadn't moved since I got here, but I swear it was always a little closer than before, and started down the hallway. Lights flickered above me in that obvious haunting in progress way. The paintings on the walls had changed. I swear one used to be of a peaceful river, but now it looked like a mass grave behind a Cracker Barrel. The ectoplasm trail ended outside room 22, which I hadn't visited yet. According to the resident chart, it belonged to Mr. Dominic Rhodes. Age: deceased since 1979. Cause of death: complications from being extremely stubborn. I knocked. No answer. I opened the door. The room looked surprisingly normal. Made bed, doilies, a stack of Reader's Digest so tall it could qualify as a fire hazard. But something was wrong. Office. Then I saw it. On the wall across from the bed, written in what looked like ash or soot or something worse, was a sentence. Room 13 says you knocked. I froze. No, I whispered aloud. No, I didn't. A second line scratched itself onto the wall, forming as I watched. Liar. I noped out of there so fast I nearly left my shoes behind. Back in the office, the intercom buzzed again. This time it wasn't me on the other end. It was an old woman's voice. Familiar. Raspy. He's at the door, dear. He's got the pudding you forgot. I checked the camera feed. Room 9, Beatrice Mathers. Her pudding cup still sat on her tray outside the door. Another rule broken. "I'm coming," I said aloud, grabbing a replacement snack and speed-walking toward her room. I was halfway there when I heard it. The sound of a door creaking open. Not hers. I turned the corner and saw room 13 wide open, light spilling out across the floor. There was no door there earlier, just wallpaper. The new rule echoed in my brain like a warning siren. If you start seeing room 13. The hallway got colder with each step I took, the kind of cold that gets behind your ribs and whispers awful thoughts. I didn't mean to walk toward it. My feet just went. Inside, the room was empty. Mostly. A rocking chair in the corner moved slightly as if someone had just stood up. The wallpaper peeled in long strips like something had clawed its way out, not in. I left the pudding outside the door and backed away. Slowly, steadily. Then I heard the knock. 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 From the inside. I sprinted back to the office, flung myself into the squeaky chair, and slammed the door. Not that it would have helped if whatever was in room 13 wanted in. But it made me feel better. Sort of. Then I noticed something strange on the desk. A birthday card. It wasn't there before. I opened it. Inside it said, "Happy retirement. We'll be seeing you soon. The residents of Greystone Hollow." No signature, no date, just the faint smell of cigarette smoke and lilacs. At 5:55 a.m., Harold reappeared like clockwork. He knocked once and stepped inside. "You made it through the night," he said, adjusting his glasses. "That's rare for new hires." I blinked at him. "You said there were no living residents." He smiled. "Correct. You're not a resident." "Am I gonna be?" "Not unless you break the big rule," he said. "What's the big rule?" Harold raised a brow. "Don't get too comfortable." Then he handed me a fresh pudding cup and said, "You'll need this for room 13 tonight. They like butterscotch." By night 3, I developed a routine. Show up at 11:59, clock in, pretend the building isn't haunted, avoid room 13 like it's contagious, and hand out pudding cups like I'm on some kind of ghostly Meals on Wheels mission. I even got used to the small stuff. Lights flickering, cold spots, whispering vents, phantom jazz drifting down the hallway. But the thing that really started getting to me wasn't what I saw. It was what stared back. You ever walk into a room and know deep down in your gut that something is watching you from a corner just out of view? That's what Greystone Hollow feels like. Every room, every hallway, even the mop closet. Especially the mop closet. I haven't opened it since I saw Kane hover mid-air and tap out SOS in Morse code. At exactly 2:07 a.m., the power went out. Total blackout. No flickers, no warning hum. Just boom. Lights gone, cameras dead, and the air turned ice cold like the place had exhaled all at once. Now the rules never said anything about a power outage, but Rule 5 did say the grandfather clock had to be ticking. I bolted for the lobby, nearly tripping over a walker that hadn't been there 2 seconds ago. I reached the clock just in time to hear it stop, a hollow, dead thunk. I stared at it. It stared back. Or maybe that was the reflection in the glass. I wound it fast, hands shaking, heart pounding in my ears. The moment the second hand clicked forward, the lights came back on with a loud, echoing pop, like the building had taken a huge breath in. Crisis averted. Right? Except now the hallway smelled like burnt hair and sulfur, and every portrait on the wall had turned to face the same direction. Room 13. I decided I needed backup, or at least answers. That's when I remembered the name from the logbook. June Waverly, former night attendant. Last person to leave a written update, right before everything went silent for 3 months. I did some late-night Googling on the grainy office computer. Yes, this haunted place had dial-up. I'm not joking. Turns out June lived only a few miles away, and had apparently suffered a nervous breakdown involving pudding and a priest. Promising. I found her number listed under spiritual consultant. Left a voicemail that went something like, "Hi, June. I work at Greystone now, and I haven't slept in 2 days. Something's knocking from inside room 13. The piano hates me, and I think the building wants me to retire early, like into a grave. Call me back, please. I didn't expect a response. She called back 15 minutes later. Listen carefully, she said. No greeting, no small talk. What's the mop situation? That was her first question. I blinked. Gray one is fine. Yellow one hasn't moved, but it feels like it wants to. You're still safe. For now. Great. So what happened to you? Why'd you leave? I didn't leave, she said. I escaped. There's a difference. A long silence stretched between us. They want routine, she continued. It keeps them calm. Pudding, music, the ticking clock. It all reminds them of when they were alive. But if you interrupt that, they start to remember they're dead. Okay. And room 13? She inhaled like she was about to say something heavy. Then, do not let it in. That room doesn't contain anything. It's the part of the home that remembers what Greystone used to be. Before the residents, before the rules, before we figured out how to keep it from spreading. Spreading? If you knock, she said, it knocks back through you. At 3:33 a.m., the piano played again. This time it was a waltz, sweeter than usual, and louder, like it wanted me to dance. Nope. Instead, I sat in the office, surrounded by pudding cups like they were wards against evil. I didn't even hear the knock at first. Tap, tap. I jumped, looked up. Nothing at the door. Tap, tap. Again. Closer. Then I saw it. The reflection monitor, the one showing what the building looked like in reverse, had changed. Instead of the office, it showed the reflection of room 13's door. Open. Behind it? Something tall, pale and blurry, like it was being erased in real time. Then it turned toward the camera, toward me, and smiled. No face, just the idea of a smile. Cold and wide and wrong. I shut off the monitor. Hard. The screen cracked. Screw it. I was done for the night. I pulled out the laminated rule sheet, flipped it over, and started writing my own. New rules. If you're reading this, God help you don't fall for the music. Don't answer knocks from nowhere. Don't look at your reflection after 3 a.m. If room 13 offers you a pudding cup, say no. Trust the gray mop. Fear the yellow one. If a resident disappears from the list, don't go looking. Never stay longer than 7 nights. And then, as if to remind me I still had 4 nights left, the intercom crackled back to life with a new voice. One I knew. My mom's. Sweetie, it said gently, your shift's almost over. Why don't you come rest in room 13? It's warm in there. There are 2 kinds of fear. The kind that makes you scream, run, flail, and regret every time you said nothing scares me out loud. Then there's the quiet kind. The kind that creeps up the back of your neck when a voice that sounds like your dead mother whispers through a 1980s intercom and tells you to come lie down in a room that doesn't exist. I sat still in the chair, hands gripping the arms so tight I left marks. I didn't speak, didn't blink, barely breathed, because I knew if I moved something would notice. And I felt it waiting just outside the office. Watching, smiling, inviting. Eventually the intercom crackled off, like it got bored. I glanced at the clock. 5:12 a.m., almost sunrise. I stood up slowly, knees stiff, back aching from clenching every muscle in my body for the last 2 hours. I needed air, maybe even a cigarette, and I haven't smoked since college. I turned toward the office door and froze. The yellow mop was gone. It had been leaning in the corner since night 1, silent, innocent, useless. But now? Now it stood upright in the middle of the hallway, soaking wet and dripping something dark. You know that scene in every horror movie where the idiot walks toward the obvious danger? Yeah. I did not do that. I slammed the door and shoved the office chair under the handle like I was trying to survive a zombie outbreak. Then I heard a sound I still can't explain. A wet squeak, like rubber on tile, followed by another, and another. It was mopping. The yellow mop was mopping the hallway. No one was holding it. I peeked at the cracked monitor. The hallway camera worked again. The mop slid back and forth, slowly, methodically, leaving behind a perfect gleaming trail, except whatever it cleaned just vanished. The hallway itself turned darker behind it, like the building was being erased. Rule 9 suddenly made a lot more sense. At 5:45 a.m., Harold appeared again. Just like clockwork. No knock this time. He walked in like nothing was wrong, sipping black coffee and reading the obituaries. I didn't say a word. I just pointed. The mop, the hallway, the void it left behind. Harold sipped his coffee. "Ah, it's early this time," he muttered. "Usually doesn't start until night 6. "You knew about this?" I barked. "Of course," he said casually. "That mop wants your job. Has since 2004. Poor thing never gets promoted." He paused. "Did you feed room 13 last night?" No, of course not." Harold narrowed his eyes. "Then why is it asking for you by name?" Before he left, Harold handed me an envelope. Inside was a new resident form. Name: June Waverly Room. Pending assignment. Notes: returning for readmission. Partial memory loss. Mild aggression. Strong aversion to mops. I blinked. "She's dead?" I asked. "Everyone comes back eventually," Harold said with a shrug. "Some just take longer to check in." I don't remember sitting down. I just remember how heavy that envelope felt. Like it was filled with something more than paper. Like it was a warning. That night I arrived early. 11:30 p.m. I waited outside in the parking lot with a thermos of lukewarm coffee and a gut full of dread. The sky above Greystone looked wrong, like someone had replaced the clouds with peeling wallpaper. When I finally walked inside, the building was different. The layout had changed. Subtle things. Hallways longer. Wallpaper darker. I passed room 6 twice without turning. Room 13 had a new nameplate. Awaiting guest. I grabbed the gray mop. I didn't need it yet, but I felt safer holding something, anything, with a history of ghost-busting credentials. That's when I saw June. She stood at the end of the hallway, pale, wispy, her nurse uniform half-transparent, like a memory that hadn't finished loading. Her eyes were foggy, but she looked alive, more alive than the rest. She smiled when she saw me. "Hey, new guy," she said softly. "Still doing the pudding run?" "You came back," I whispered. She nodded. "I had to. I left something unfinished." "What?" June's face darkened. "Room 13. We sat in the rec room where ghostly bingo cards were still scattered across the floor from Tuesday's incident. I poured her a coffee. She didn't drink it, but I think she appreciated the gesture. "You ever wonder why this place exists?" she asked. "Why ghosts retire?" I shrugged. I assumed they got bored of haunting. June chuckled. "It's routine. Ghosts are just leftover memories, loops. They crave repetition. Same pudding, same bedtime, same piano song. Keeps them calm. But room 13 doesn't want calm." "No," she said. "Room 13 wants chaos. It wants to change things. It wants to break the loop. That's why it pretends to be people. Your mom. Me. It can't hurt you directly. Not yet. But it can trick you into inviting it in." She looked me dead in the eye. "Don't let it finish its smile. That's when it takes over." The lights flickered. The piano started playing. Far too early. 3:02 a.m. Then a new sound. Knock, knock, knock. June stood up fast. "It's starting again." "Starting what?" But she was already gone. I turned to the hallway monitor. Room 13 was wide open. But now, there was a bed inside, and something under the sheets, waiting, breathing. I ran. Gray mop in hand, pudding cups falling out of my hoodie pocket like ghost snacks. I didn't stop until I reached the far end of the West Wing, the one with no residents, no cameras, no rules. And there it was, the yellow mop, propped up at the end of the corridor like it was guarding something. Behind it, the wallpaper was gone, peeled away to reveal a mirror, a tall, antique mirror. My reflection stood still, but I wasn't moving. Then the reflection grinned. There's something fundamentally wrong about seeing your own reflection grin when you didn't. It wasn't just a smirk either. It was a Room 13 grin, wide, warped, and stretching just a little too far, like someone pulled it from behind the ears and forgot where the cheek should stop. The yellow mop stood like a sentry beside the mirror, dripping black sludge that hissed as it hit the floor. The puddle was growing, and following me. I ran. The reflection stayed. By the time I reached the lobby, my lungs were on fire. I skidded into the grandfather clock and knocked over the stool next to it. The clock's ticking was louder now, like it was struggling to keep pace with the building's heartbeat. Because yes, Greystone Hollow has a heartbeat. I've felt it under the floors. It pulses whenever Room 13 opens. And lately, it's been thumping harder. I reached into my hoodie pocket and found a pudding cup. Banana. I don't even remember grabbing it. Then I saw the note taped to it. Your bed's been made. Come rest. R13. I didn't scream. Screaming doesn't help in this place. It's like opening a window and hoping the house fixes itself. Instead, I locked myself in the office and flipped open the logbook. I skipped to the last 2 pages, the ones June never finished. The ink was smeared, but 3 words were still visible beneath a coffee stain and something that looked like dried blood. Reflections remember differently. That's when the camera feed flickered on, the lobby monitor, still crackling, still broken. But it showed me, walking toward Room 13, me, holding the yellow mop, me, smiling, and me, already inside. I blacked out for a second, just blinked, and when I opened my eyes again, there was a note stuck to the inside of the office door, written in looping, childish handwriting. Everyone retires eventually. I grabbed the gray mop and left the office like I was storming a haunted castle. Screw it. I wasn't going out like the guy from Night 5 who supposedly retired into the wallpaper. Yeah, that's a thing. He's the one whose face is still frozen in the floral print by the east stairwell. Don't believe me? Try blinking fast when you pass. The face blinks back. I needed help. Real help. So I did the one thing you're never supposed to do at a retirement home for ghosts. I woke someone up. Beatrice Mathers, Room 9. Her door was closed, pudding cup still sealed on the tray. I knocked once. No answer. Knocked twice. Still nothing. So I did it. Knocked 3 times. The door opened on its own. She sat in the middle of the room in her rocking chair, hands folded neatly in her lap, fully translucent and somehow glowing faintly, with disapproval. "What did you just do?" she snapped. "I need help," I said. "Room 13. She raised a ghostly hand. "That room isn't your concern, dear. It's his." "Whose?" She pointed down the hallway, then slowly rose to her feet. Not standing exactly, more like floating upward like a threat. "The one with the mop." That hallway shouldn't have existed, but there it was. Long, narrow, lined with portraits of staff members who never smiled. At the end stood a door labeled, "Janitorial. Do not enter unless you're ready." I opened it. Inside was a spiral staircase. Stone. Old. Dripping with condensation that smelled like bleach and burning sage. At the bottom, a boiler room, and sitting in the middle of it was the yellow mop. Only now it wasn't alone. A figure stood next to it, hunched, skeletal, wearing a staff uniform from the 1950s. I recognized him from the logbook. Miles, the first ever night attendant, the one listed as retired, status undisclosed. He turned slowly. His eyes were two glowing pinpricks inside sunken sockets. His voice sounded like wet gravel. "I cleaned up everything," he rasped. "Everything but you." I raised the gray mop like it was a sword. "Back off." Miles laughed. "You think that mop protects you? It's a key. You're holding a key, boy. A key to the loop. You don't clean with it. You trap them with it." "I'm not trapping anyone." "You will. Or you'll replace me. That's how the Hollow works. I'll burn this place down first." "No, you won't," Miles grinned. "You already live here." He pointed to my badge. I looked down. My name tag had changed. Now it read, Resident 13. Status, checked in. I backed out of the boiler room so fast I nearly fell up the stairs. The hallway behind me shifted again, stretching like taffy. The ceiling oozed, the lights buzzed, and the wallpaper turned into faces, all of them watching me. By the time I reached the lobby again, the grandfather clock had stopped, dead silent, except for the piano, playing my lullaby. From room 13. I stood in front of the door. It looked like any other room now. Perfectly normal. A little sign that said, "Welcome home." I didn't knock. I just listened. And from inside, I heard breathing. Software steady. Exactly like mine. I turned to leave. But the hallway was gone, there was only the door. And my reflection in the doorknob, smiling again. You ever wear a shirt so long it starts to feel like skin? That's what the staff uniform at Greystone Hollow is like. It's one of those ugly beige button-ups with a stitched name tag and permanent bleach stains in armpit-adjacent places. But now it's part of me. I tried to take it off that night. After the encounter with Miles. After the badge changed. After room 13 whispered my name in my mom's voice again. But the buttons wouldn't budge. The fabric wouldn't tear. Even the tag and the collar had changed. Property of Greystone Hollow. Not for return. At 11:59 p.m., I still clocked in. Not because I wanted to. Because the clock forced me. The punch-in machine grabbed my hand. Gently, almost politely. And stamped the time on a card I didn't insert. When I tried to walk out the front door, nothing. The lobby just looped. I'd step out onto the front porch and end up back at the nurse's station. No matter how fast I moved or how many different exits I tried, the building kept folding in on itself, gently but firmly reminding me, you live here now. June returned at 12:07 a.m. She looked worse, fuzzier, like her time outside the Hollow had drained her energy. You're almost out of time, she warned. Great, I said. I'll set my ghostly calendar. No jokes, she snapped. Room 13's almost ready. Once it fully opens, it stops being a room. It becomes a gateway. To what? Wherever all the unfinished ones go. The residents who remember too much. The ones who died messy, loud, angry. She leaned in closer. If it opens and you're still part of the loop, you won't be a staff member anymore. The mop closet was open, which was weird because I'd taped it shut with 2 rolls of duct tape and a rosary I found in the chapel lost and found. Inside, the yellow mop was gone again. But now, so was the gray one. I started sweating. I passed room 7 and saw the bed unmade, which was impossible because it had been made since 1971. That's how Margaret liked it. Tight corners, no wrinkles, 2 pillows. The moment I saw the blanket askew, I knew something was very wrong, and then I heard her screaming. Margaret's ghost was floating 3 feet above the floor, hair whipping in a wind that didn't exist, eyes glowing with a pale blue light. She took it. She took my room. Who took it? I asked, backing away. The reflection, she screeched. The one with your smile. She hurled a nightstand at me. It missed by an inch and exploded against the hallway wall in a blast of splinters and prescription bottles. That's when I realized it. Room 13 was displacing other rooms, swallowing them, replacing their space. The more attention we gave it, the bigger it got. I didn't just need to avoid it, I needed to shrink it. June met me in the reflection room, a long, windowless hallway filled with mirrors. Most were covered with sheets. One wasn't. She pointed to it. Stand in front of that one and say your name. Your full name. I did. Nothing happened. Then the reflection spoke, but it didn't use my voice. It used Miles. You're doing well, it said. Soon you'll be just like me. The reflection grinned. The mop's already chosen you. Then it stepped out of the mirror. I don't remember screaming, but my throat felt like I'd gargled gravel. I grabbed a pudding cup from my pocket and threw it. Don't ask me why. Maybe instinct. Maybe panic. It splattered across the mirror creature's chest, banana-flavored ectoplasm. It hissed like I'd doused it in acid and vanished in a blink of static. I turned to June, panting. What the hell was that? She looked shaken. Room 13's getting stronger. It's learning how to shape your fears. It wants to retire you. Why me? Because you followed the rules. That's how it chooses. You became part of the loop. Predictable. Dependable. Obedient. I sat down on the floor, defeated. So what do I do? She crouched beside me. You break one. One what? A rule, she said softly. Any rule. Doesn't matter which one. Something minor. Something that breaks the loop just enough to prove you're still alive. Still human. I blinked, then grinned. You got any peach pudding? We made a plan. It was stupid. Probably dangerous. But what wasn't at this point? June distracted the residents with an unscheduled game of haunted Scrabble, while I went room to room replacing their usual pudding flavors with something they didn't like. No routine. No comfort. Chaos. Room 4 got lemon instead of chocolate. Room 9 got tapioca instead of butterscotch. And room 13? I left it empty. That was the final straw. The building screamed. Not creaked, not groaned, screamed. A low, guttural, soul-shaking wail that made the wallpaper curl and the floor ripple. I sprinted to the lobby and wound the grandfather clock so hard the key snapped in half. Then I saw it. The door to room 13. Gone. Just gone. In its place was a wall of mirrors, all showing different versions of me. One in a straitjacket, one holding the yellow mop, one smiling back, and one that looked terrified. That one was real. I reached out to it, and the reflection grabbed my hand, pulled me through. Suddenly, I was standing in room 13. The real room 13. A room with no walls, no floor, just void. Miles stood in the center, holding the yellow mop like a scepter. Welcome home, he said. Room 13 wasn't a room anymore. It was a void, a spiraling, ever-shifting nowhere lit by the faint glow of memory. I stood barefoot on a floor made of nothing, breathing air that tasted like dust and regret. And across from me, gripping the yellow mop like a relic of war, was Miles. The first night attendant. The man who never left. You've done well, he rasped. Most don't make it past pudding night. I clenched my fists. What is this place? Where the rules go when they're broken, he said. Where staff become residents. Where Greystone stores the ones who remember too much. Behind him, I saw faces trapped in the void, flickering outlines of the other night shift workers. The guy from the logbook who heard his own voice. The one who blinked too fast. The one who knocked back. They all looked just like me, only worn out, retired. I tried to run, but the void doesn't have directions. Every step took me deeper, and then the walls appeared. Not real walls, just moving shapes, bending around me. Wallpaper stitched from echoes. Fluorescent lights overhead buzzed like angry flies. Room 13 was becoming the building. It wasn't swallowing rooms anymore. It was rewriting them. And the uniforms were multiplying, hanging in midair, all stitched with my name. The building wasn't just keeping me. It was replacing me. One staff member in, one staff member out. "You want out?" Miles said behind me. He pointed toward a doorway that hadn't been there a moment ago. "Then break the loop." I looked down. The gray mop lay at my feet, clean, untouched, still warm from my grip earlier. Miles raised the yellow one, and we charged. I don't know how to describe what happened next. We didn't fight exactly. There weren't punches or kicks, just two custodians in a supernatural duel of wills, mops clashing like swords, lights exploding with every strike. The void cracked beneath us. Time bent. Somewhere in the distance, the intercom begged me to play bridge, but I saw it in Miles's eyes. He was tired. He didn't want to win. He wanted out. I dropped the gray mop, just let it go, and said the one thing I'd been terrified to say since this whole mess began. I quit. The void shattered. I woke up on the floor of the lobby. The sun was rising outside. Real sun. No loops. No fake lighting. Just soft orange beams cutting through the dusty windows. My uniform was gone. My name tag? Back to normal. The rules? Still taped to the wall. But now they were blank. Every single line. The building was quiet. Not ghost quiet. Empty. I wandered room to room. No pudding trays, no glowing eyes, no floating walkers or whispering vents. Just silence. Beatrice's room was empty. So was room 9, room 22, room 6, even room 13. Now, just a blank stretch of wall again. No door, no voice, no invitation. Greystone Hollow had finally retired. June was waiting out front, still wearing her nurse's uniform but no longer see-through. "Looks like you made it," she said. I nodded. "Is it over?" "For you," she said. "For now." She handed me an envelope. I opened it. Inside was a one-way bus ticket to anywhere, along with a peach pudding cup. "I hate peach," I muttered. "I know," she said, smiling. "That's why you're still alive." As I stepped outside, the building groaned one last time behind me, a final exhale, like it knew it couldn't keep me. I turned back once and saw Harold standing in the second-floor window, holding the gray mop. He gave me a little salute, then disappeared into the shadows. It's been a month. I live 3 towns over now. Got a job at a laundromat. The customers don't glow. The dryers don't scream. The mops don't move on their own. But some nights, I hear a piano in the distance, playing just one sour, familiar note. And sometimes, I find a pudding cup in my mailbox, unopened, room temperature, always peach. Final rule. If you're still reading this, if a job says no living residents, don't apply.